we're going to continue learn to pray like Paul, and this is the last topic of the series. I hope you enjoy the series. And today we're going to look at the prayer where Paul prayed that we may please the Lord in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God. What does he mean by that? How can we please the Lord in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God? See, Paul always has twin statements in his letter. If you need to understand Paul's letter, you need to understand his twin statements. Paul never uses word just for superlative or just as an adjective. He didn't use words carelessly. Every word that Paul used as meaning behind it, he used it very carefully. So when Paul says these things, that we may please him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God, it means something. You need to understand what's his twin statement. If you look in the book of Colossians, Paul said this. He said, in the same way, the gospel is bearing fruit and growing throughout the whole world, just as it had been doing among you since the day you heard it and truly understood God's grace. See, Paul is using the same words, bearing fruit and growing throughout the whole world, just as it had been doing among you since the day you heard it and truly understood God's grace. How can I bear fruit and how can I grow in God? Only when you understand the grace of God. Only when you understand the grace of God. We'll never be grateful in life until we understand the grace of God. We'll never grow nor bear fruit in life if we don't understand the grace of our God and our fallen nature. See, once you understand the grace of God, there's no stopping you. The book of Jonah is a great book about God's grace. Jonah never understood God's grace. So God had to leave him to his own folly. His own folly was that he ran away from God. There is always a consequence to sin. There's always a consequence for running away from God. So he finds himself at the bottom of the sea. Jonah hit the rock bottom in life. See, when you're at rock bottom in life, God's grace will always find you. This was the grace of God that was revealed through the coming of Jesus Christ. See, Jesus was the exact representation, full picture of God's grace. The Old Testament didn't mention the word grace many times. It meant there are a few times the word grace is mentioned. But when Christ was revealed, grace was revealed to mankind. See, John in his gospel, this is how he introduced Christ. He said Christ was full of grace. And Paul said, for the grace of God has appeared that offers the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. See, talking about Jesus Christ, he said he's the grace of God, and the grace of God has appeared. See, throughout New Testament, the phrase His grace or the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ was repeated again and again and again, several times. Even the last verse in the Bible, very last verse, is the grace of the Lord Jesus be with God's people. See, there is a meaning behind it. Christ was the exact representation of God's grace. Before the revelation of God's grace, people were helpless and they were hopeless and they died in their sins. People were stoned to death. But when Christ came, He changed the story. The grace of God rescued people who are helpless and hopeless. See, grace means unmerited favor. People who don't have a chance, they started getting saved because of the grace of God. Remember Peter who denied the Lord. He went back fishing, thinking his life is over. He denied his best friend. There's no more chance that he ruined everything in his life. He was backslidden. So where did Peter go after resurrection? He went back fishing. He thought he has broken everything in life. He thought he didn't deserve God's grace. But where did Christ go after resurrection? He went after Peter. He went after Peter and the disciples fishing, and he asked him, "Do you love me more than these, Peter?" See, the grace of God went after Peter and reinstated him. Remember the woman who was caught in adultery? Everyone was ready to throw a stone at her and kill her. See, because that's the law. The law demanded that we all should be stoned to death for our sins. What did grace do? The grace of God let her go and gave her a second chance in life. See, this is radical in the eyes of early Christians. They never saw grace like this before. Everyone who met Jesus were at rock bottom in life, and Christ gave them a new start. And this is why the early church was on fire, because they understood the grace of God. When you understand the grace of God, you start bearing fruit and growing in the knowledge of God. That is what is Paul praying for here. See, it was in that rock bottom Jonah got that light bulb moment, and he said, well, he was at the bottom of the sea, "Those who cling to worthless idols will forfeit your grace." He understood finally the grace of God. He realized that if I run after this world, if I run away from God, I am forfeiting God's grace. He understood what God's grace is. He realized, I've been clinging to worthless idols. You know what? But the grace of God found him even at the bottom of the sea. When he was at rock bottom, the grace of God found him, met him. When Jonah understood the grace of God, finally, God rescued him. See, the story of Jonah is a beautiful picture of the cross. In the cross, the wrath of God and grace of God intersected. When Jonah was in the bottom of the sea, he was there because of the wrath of God, because of the storm. The storm represented the wrath of God. He ran away from God. And the fish vomited Jonah in the land because of the grace of God. God's grace rescued Jonah from that rock bottom in life. When did you hit rock bottom in life? What if God hadn't rescued you when you were at rock bottom in life? See, we all need to come face to face with the grace of God and understand the grace of God. Then only we can bear fruit and grow in the knowledge of God. See, the way I understand grace of God is by understanding my own folly, my own weakness, my own helplessness. Think of your worst moment in life, your hopeless moment, your helpless moment. The times you wanted to do something good, but you failed, you miserably failed. The time you wanted to be wise, but you were foolish and you failed. The times you thought you can handle it, but you fumbled and you fell down in life. And what if the grace of God hadn't met you there? What if God let you there at the rock bottom in your life, and that was the end of your life? Here you are, and here I am. I am where I am because of the grace of God. The grace of God came to me when I was at rock bottom in life. The grace of God came to you when you were at rock bottom in life. See, if you understand your helplessness and your weakness, you can understand the grace of God. If you understand the grace of God, you will start bearing fruit and growing in the Lord. And that is why Paul prayed that you may live a life worthy of the Lord, pleasing Him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God. I hope that's an encouragement for you. Thanks for watching, and God bless.